It's another edition of Closer Look across the Village Media Network and, of course, wherever you get your favorite podcasts on this Thursday, the 31st day of July. With Michael Friscolanti, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Here we are, the last day of the month and the eve of what could be a very big day tomorrow.
Yeah, huge day coming tomorrow. We're already seeing a lot of headlines come out about what sort of seems to be cracking in the negotiations between Canada and the U.S. on a new trade deal. I believe the Commerce Secretary was just publicly talking about how he's aware that the metal tariffs that they've imposed on Canada are having an impact on the U.S. auto sector, and so they might be willing to bend a little bit on that. I can only imagine what's going on behind the scenes. You've heard about different officials flying in and out of Washington.
Yeah.
There'll be a great book to be written one day, or multiple books to be written about these negotiations. Can you imagine?
I can't. It's going to be a big day, and we'll have an update for you tomorrow. Okay, tonight, very big show. A friend of the show, in fact, we've had him on a few times. The last time, he was prepping to be the moderator of the federal leaders debate heading into the election, Steve Paikin.
Yeah, now he's fully retired and doing nothing.
Well, he'll argue the fully retired. I don't think Steve will ever retire.
Steve never does nothing. Yeah. We'll spoil it. He's launched a new podcast, which is out there on YouTube called the Paikin Podcast, wherever you find your favorite podcast. It's a great show. I've listened to the first few episodes, including his chat with Janice Stein, great international affairs expert. And it's going to be, the way I understand it, it's going to be 1 week it's going to be a political discussion with two former MPs and himself, and the other week's going to be with Janice Stein. And we're very excited because we're teaming up with Steve on this. Right. It's his podcast, but we're going to run that YouTube link. We're going to run the link to the show through our local news feeds every Saturday morning. It's going to be a Saturday feature across our sites. So hopefully it'll introduce some readers who didn't know it existed to his product and his shows. And it's just, we've teamed up with his journalism before. During the TVO strike, he did a column for our Queen's Park team at the Trillium. His columns have run on our site. He's been on our show multiple times. Yeah. People in Ontario know the kind of journalist he is and what a trusted face he is.
He is.
And his interviews are super compelling and very, informative. And I think it's just a great addition to the work we're doing. So to kind of be like a weekend feature every Saturday morning, the Paikin Podcast through your local news feed, including DundasToday.com.
Well, he just recently wrapped up a 19-year run as the host of The Agenda on TVO, and he's joining us now on Closer Look. Steve Paikin from the Cottage. Steve, good as always to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Scott and Frisco, you surely know that if you've got a cottage in northwestern Ontario, we call it a camp.
Yeah.
So none of this cottage stuff.
I've never understood that because I'm from the south, and when I came up to the north, that's what I didn't understand. People, I'm going to my camp. I was like, "What do you mean? You're bringing your tent out?"
I thought it was a fancy tent.
No, I still don't call it a camp, Steve, and I've been here a long time.
Steve,
we call it a camp here.
Yeah. I'd say how's retirement going, but I don't think you're ever going to retire.
I don't know about ever, but I'm certainly not now. The reality is that the agenda, as you pointed out, wrapped up at the end of June. And I still got lots of energy, and I'm still plenty curious about how the world works. So even though I'm up I'm tempted to turn my laptop around just so you can see the North Channel of Lake Huron that I am looking out on right now, which is just so spectacularly gorgeous.
Not bad.
I won't do that because I'll no doubt screw something up here technically, but suffice to say, I'm spending probably 12 to 14 hours a day up here working while enjoying the view because, I just can't wait to get started this sort of new phase of my career.
Yeah, we definitely want to get into that, but we want to go down memory lane a bit before we jump into that. Does that work, Steve?
Sure, whatever you like.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk some Tigers, Blue Jays, and Red Sox at some point as well. Steve, we mentioned you wrapped up after 19 seasons on The Agenda. Why now?
Why now? Well, okay, this is going to sound like a crazy story, but I remember probably 35 years ago when I was working at CBC, Barbara Frum, the legendary broadcaster Barbara Frum, who hosted The Journal, we bumped into each other at CBC one day and we got to talking, and she said to me, Steve, one day the viewers just wake up and they get sick of looking at your face. and my reaction was, Barbara, my goodness, I'm 30 years old here. Hopefully I've got a few more years before that's going to happen. But that always stuck in the back of my head. And I thought it was just a great reminder, don't overstay your welcome. These jobs are all temporary jobs, and we serve in these jobs at the pleasure of viewers and listeners as long as we satisfy their curiosity, and you don't want to push that. And I thought 19 years, at the end of last June, which is what it was, is it just felt like a right time to get out while I thought I still could do the job pretty well and not push my luck. So that's why.
I was watching some old video this morning, Steve, preparing for this, and you were first introduced to the TVO audience back in 1992 by Elwie Yost. What do you remember about that day other than the simply awesome flow of hair that you had sitting behind the desk?
Can you believe they let me go on television with that mullet? Wasn't that crazy? Scott, this is going to sound ridiculous. That was 33 years ago next month. So that's 33 years ago, August, that I sat on a set. We were doing a membership pledge at TVO.
Right.
And it was the first time, it was my first appearance on TVO. And the great Elwie Yost, who, of course, hosted Saturday Night at the Movies for all those decades, Elwie Yost introduced me to the TVO viewing audience. He put his hand on my arm. He said, I'm beyond delighted to welcome, and I'm 32 years at the time, and I'm in awe of Elwie, who, of course, I used to watch all the time. And it was just a moment. I mean, you could not have asked for a better way to say, welcome to the family, than having Elwie Yost sort of lay hands on you and say, kid, you're official now.
Wow. 33 years, various iterations of the program. How many shows in total?
I think 5. I came over in 1992 to take on an existing weekly town hall show called Between the Lines, which actually former Member of Parliament John Godfrey was hosting, and then he left, so created a vacancy. So I started that. Part of the job also was to create a new weekly Queen's Park show, which was called Fourth Reading. You know, if it was a football show, we'd have called it the fifth quarter, right? Every bill before it gets logged is first, second, and third reading. So we were fourth reading. So that's 2 shows. Then 2 years in, 1994, we created the first daily show in the history of TVO called Studio 2.
Right.
Then we created a foreign affairs show called Diplomatic Immunity, which was the 4th show. That was a weekly international affairs focused show. And then came the agenda for the last 19 years. So 5, I think.
Yeah. And your last guest was your father, Larry. What did that mean to you? Yeah, it's a pretty amazing thing.
Frisco, what did it mean to me? I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. Everything.
Yeah.
We sat around for a few weeks, the producers, the executive producer, and I, and sort of kicked around a bunch of names. You know, should we keep trying to get the premier? Should we try to get the new prime minister? Yeah. And then I think almost simultaneously, one of the producers and I just thought, let's pluck something out of left field here. We're not going to get a subject matter expert. We're not going to get somebody who's been on the program many times. Let's do something really different. And my dad is, in a week and a half, he'll be 92 years old.
Wow. Good for him.
He took a bus from Hamilton. He still lives in his own apartment in Hamilton. He took a bus into Union Station, then hopped the subway to come up to TVO, to Eglinton. And I said to him ahead of time, I said, do you want me to bounce the questions off you just so you have some sense about what to think about? And he said, nope, let's just wing it.
Wow.
And that's what we did for 16, 17 minutes. And I can't tell you guys how many people have come up to me since then saying how much they loved the interview. First of all, how impressed they were with him, because he's still got so much game. And second of all, just what a lovely, you know, I love the guy to bits. Yeah. And it kind of showed.
I want to ask you about favorite guest, Stephen, and obviously the correct answer would and should be Dad. So I won't put you on the spot there, but any memorable guests, a couple of things that you can share with us?
Well, of course, just given the way my genetic makeup works, I've always enjoyed interviewing Ontario's premiers. And I've had, you know, from Bill Davis to Frank Miller to David Peterson to Bob Ray to Mike Harris to Ernie Eves to Dalton McGuinty to Kathleen Wynne, had all of them on. I never did score, you know, if I was Captain Ahab, I'd say I never did score the white whale here, but I tried really hard to get Doug Ford to come on, and for whatever reason, his people would always just say, the premier is unavailable.
We get the same line.
Really? You've never had him either?
Nope. No. We get the same line.
Well, if you're not going to get him, I tell them.
He does tons of one-on-ones. He does lots of them all the time, but for whatever reason, we could just never score him. And that's fine. You know, I gave it my best. What are you going to do? Yeah. So I love interviewing the premiers. But beyond that, you know, Janice Stein is somebody who I've been interviewing on programs at TVO for 30 years. Yes. So I love her, you know, going toe-to-toe with her as she shares her expertise, and I try to gently sort of push back at stuff that I want to make sure she knows. And gosh, I mean, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, Mikhail Gorbachev, Rosalind Carter. I mean, there have just been so many interesting folks to talk to over the years. I don't even know how you begin to figure that out.
When you get that, you can interview Mikhail Gorbachev, but not Premier Doug Ford. Yeah. When you put it that way, it's a bit bizarre. And it
sounds funny, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. And we're going to get into this some more, but it's that idea that it's surprising to me as a fellow journalist because your reputation is so good as someone who toes that middle line and doesn't show favoritism, that really asks great questions and is not out to get the person you're interviewing. Like, it's the best place for someone to come and have an interview. And so it's surprising that I didn't know you hadn't interviewed Doug Ford. I would have assumed you would have.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the funny thing is, I have interviewed Doug Ford before he became premier. You know, when he ran for mayor of Toronto, we had him on once then. He had a book that he wrote about his family's political life and legacy, and he came on to talk about that. And we had him once on when he was running for the leadership of the PC party. So he was on with Christine Elliott and Caroline Mulroney and Tanya Granick-Allen. So he was on that time. But as soon as he became Tory leader in March of 2018, that was it. We never saw him again. But I have a perfectly good relationship with him, I have to say. I saw him yesterday in Brampton when they unveiled this beautiful new installation in the memory of former Premier Bill Davis. I saw him. We had a perfectly, respectful conversation with each other. And just for whatever reason, his people never saw fit to make him available for the show.
Interesting. I would have guessed otherwise. You've joked often or been serious as well that you don't have an opinion on anything. You haven't had an opinion on anything since 1976, I believe, is one of the things I read, and it was about Frank Sinatra. We can ask that later, but that's a real art, and I think, can you speak to that, Steve, in terms of your mission in that to it helped you be the great journalist you are, to not have all those opinions?
I appreciate you saying that. Of course, I have opinions, but what I have learned is I can't share them when they're about controversial issues of the day. I have to be seen as an honest broker if I'm asking people of differing points of views to come and sit around a table like you are doing there and to debate one another. And if our guests think that I'm in the tank for one side or the other, that's going to be a more problematic ask.
Yes.
And so I've just learned there are things that I'm allowed to opine about. For example, I'm sorry, I am a massive Boston Red Sox fan. Yeah. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. There were no Blue Jays when I became a Red Sox fan. I'm from Hamilton, so I am a Ticats fan. I've been going to Leaf games since 1966, so I'm sorry, I am a Leaf fan. So sorry for the people in Ottawa. I'm just, you're never going to get me to be fair and balanced on the issue of hockey in Ontario. But on the issue of bike lanes, whether they belong in or out, on the issue of Middle Eastern peace, sorry, I just don't weigh in on that stuff because I can't.
Yeah, and that's why your shows worked for so well for so long. That's why the great discussions from people with all kinds of different opinions, and you moderating that. Let's talk about baseball since you showed us your phone. I think that's a good segue into that. Obviously, we all watched the Tigers get mauled by the Jays over the weekend. Just so everyone remembers who might not know, I'm a huge Tigers fan. You're a Blue Jays fan.
I am.
Steve's a diehard Red Sox fan. Can the Sox catch the Jays this year?
No. Well, let me rephrase. Can they? Of course, anything's possible. And if you're talking about the Blue Jays of the last 4 games, who have given up double-digit runs 3 times and 8 runs in the other game.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening there's a great book to be written about momentum in baseball, as in there's no such thing. How do the Jays play so well for so long and then give up double-digit runs 3 games in a row and then 8 in the game after that? Anyway, I don't understand it. Somebody once said, momentum in baseball is only as good as your next starting pitcher, which there is something to that. Anyway, if you ask me in my heart, what do I think is going to happen? I don't think the Red Sox are going to catch the Blue Jays. They're just not good enough. But having said that, there have been some really exciting moments this season so far with all of our teams. I mean, the Tigers have played fabulously well coming out of the gate, and then they went into a bit of a tailspin. The Jays started in a quite mediocre fashion, and then they put that fabulous winning streak together. And the Red Sox, who are just a classic example of mediocrity in baseball, went on that 10 straight win streak right into the All-Star break, which was terrible timing. And then coming out of the break, they've been back to their old ways of playing 500 baseball. So sorry, don't get me going on this. I could go forever. I do love baseball. I love following it.
It's the beautiful thing about baseball. It's 162 games. It's you could watch for 2 weeks and they look like the worst team in the world, and you watch for the next 2 weeks and they look like gangbusters.
World beaters, for sure.
And you mentioned starting pitching. I see the Jays just picked up Bieber today.
Yes, did you see that, Steve?
Yeah, Shane Bieber. Yeah,
he hasn't pitched much lately, though. I don't know.
Tommy John surgery.
I don't know.
Steve, tell us about your new podcast.
Well, I stayed up all night long thinking of what to call it. And so it's called the Paikin Podcast. How about that, eh? Wasn't that original?
Yeah.
Here's the thinking behind it. Despite the fact that I've stopped doing the agenda, I still love interviewing people. I still love talking about politics. I still love talking about foreign affairs. I still love doing one-on-one interviews. So I thought to myself, how do I keep doing all that, even though I'm not ensconced in a daily program at TVO anymore? I'm still going to do the weekly On Poly podcast on Fridays with John Michael McGrath. I'm thrilled about that. But what about the rest of the calendar? And sort of figured out that if everybody's doing it, right? If I started a podcast and the gist of the podcast is 1 week we're going to talk about everything political with 2 ex-MPs, and then the next week we're going to talk about foreign affairs with Janice Stein and with panels and other guests and so on. That's the basis of a new weekly podcast. And we'll throw in some one-on-one interviews in the field from time to time, like the one I did to debut the show with the Premier of Alberta, which
it was great.
I went out to Calgary to interview her, and holy smokes, like the pickup on YouTube for that sucker was amazing. I can't believe how many tens of thousands of people have watched the thing. So that's the idea going forward. And, hopefully people will subscribe at stevepaikin.com and away we go.
Yeah.
And you guys are being a big part of it as well.
We're very excited about that. We're going to talk about this right now. We're going to team up on this a little bit, and we're kind of joined forces in a way. We're going to run your podcast every Saturday morning through all our local news feeds, all 27 of our local sites, across our Village Report site. So it'll be just another way for people to get their eyes on it, to know what's out there. So we're super excited to bring your level of journalism to join our journalism, and just offer our audiences something new and different, or something old and different, I suppose. It's a familiar face, right?
Frisco, I don't want to make this sound too much like a mutual admiration society here, but the reality is, some people may remember there was a work stoppage at TVO almost 2 years ago. And one of the things that I did during that work stoppage was write some columns that I used to write for the TVO website for you guys. You guys were kind enough to give me an outlet for my provincial affairs focused brain. And we got to know each other better then. And, Jesse, your fantastic editor, Jesse Smith Cross, was wonderful. And that started it. Started a bit of a relationship. Yes. And then here we are, continuing it.
Absolutely. So hopefully everybody wins. Hopefully our readers who might not know that the podcast exists, haven't been on YouTube yet to check it out, will see it through our sites and click over to your site on YouTube. How has the pickup been? I mean, did it right away take off? Lots of subscribers right away?
Truth be told, I haven't even checked yet. I guess I got to do that. This is such a new universe for me. I got to tell you, I've worked in legacy media for 43 years, right? I started in radio as a City Hall reporter, then did 7 years at CBC, TV and radio, and then 33 years at TVO. This whole podcasting universe is new to me, and I'm trying to figure it out as I go along. You've reminded me, one of the things I got to do is actually check and see if people are actually subscribing to the damn thing. Yes. I hope they are.
Yes.
I did check the Smith interview, Premier Smith interview on YouTube, and last I looked, it had about 90,000 views, which is great. Not bad for a first effort out the gate. But I haven't checked everything political yet, and I haven't checked World on Edge with Janice Stein yet. So thanks for the reminder. I'll do that right after this.
You mentioned that Janice Stein is going to be the part of the feature, and you did mention the 2 MPs. Who are they? We forgot to talk about who your co-hosts are for that show.
Oh, okay. So thanks for asking. I really wanted balance here. I wanted balance, which I hope is my calling card over the years. So I wanted somebody who had government experience and somebody with opposition experience. I wanted a Tory and I wanted a Liberal. I wanted a man and I wanted a woman. I wanted Ontario, Central Canada. I wanted Western Canada. And I think I got the best of all of that with Tony Clement and Martha Hall Findlay. Mm-hmm. First of all, I've known both of them forever. So, and they've known each other. They served at the same time in the House of Commons. So they know each other. They've got good chemistry together. I just like the complementary things that they bring to the discussion. And they disagree on stuff, but they've got great civility, which again was something that we thought was extremely important on the agenda for all those years. So we've had one episode up already. We're shooting, as you and I sit here having this conversation now, we're going to shoot another episode tomorrow. So the second episode will be up next week. And we're having a blast.
All right, the Paikin Podcast. Oh, about the Leafs. Thoughts on the Marner trade before we let you go?
Do I have to?
You don't have to do anything.
I'm so sad. Look, I'm so sad to see him go, right? He's just such a fundamental part of the history of the team and played so many great regular season games for the team. And I just wish that he had been able to, whatever the hell it is about playoff hockey that separates some players from others, poor Mitch was just sort of never able to find it. And of course, now that he's going to Vegas, I'm sure he will, given the Leafs' luck. I'm going to miss him because I thought he was everything you'd want in a hockey player for the Maple Leafs. But what are you going to do? They have the misfortune of running up against the Stanley Cup winners 2 years in a row, and there you go.
That's what happens. I also forgot to mention that you're being humble, I think, but you were also considered as one of the last guests for the agenda, the final agenda. You just didn't mention that.
Well,
It was a choice between Scott and my dad, and I thought, you know what? My dad probably has to win that fight.
I mean, Larry gets the nod when it comes, really, come on.
You'll be our last guest, Scott.
And that might happen sooner than you think.
Oh, boy.
Okay, the Paikin Podcast, stevepaikin.com, subscribe at YouTube. And when are we starting to run it?
This Saturday. This Saturday. Long weekend. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. It's going to be up and running every Saturday from here on in.
Right across the Village Media Network, all 27 markets, including our latest, DundasToday.com.
Beautiful.
Good stuff.
Oh, fabulous. That's my hometown, kids.
There you go.
There you go. That's right. Did it just for you. Steve Paikin, you're one of the best. We appreciate it, buddy. Good to see you.
Back at you guys. Great to spend time with you. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, I don't feel so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, he blew off, Doug Ford blew off Steve Paikin and blew us off too. So there you go.
And like I said to Steve, if Doug Ford's not going to talk to Steve Paikin, who's he going to talk to us? Right?
Yeah.
Maybe he'll get him now that he's just doing a podcast. Maybe it's the TVO connection.
Could have been. Conflict of interest, right? Tax dollars? No, who knows?
I know.
Good guy, though. Looking forward to having the Paikin podcast as part of our suite of journalism.
I think our readers will get a lot out of it, and they might not even know it's out there, so they'll have a chance to see it. And Steve's always been great. I think we've had him on a few different times to talk about various things. Like we mentioned before we got on, he had just finished moderating the last federal leaders debate.
That's
which we didn't talk to him about, but I mean, that's he was kind of the dean of that. He did that. I think
that was the ninth one. The ninth one that he had moderated.
That was the ninth federal one, or just ninth overall of provincial.
Total.
Yeah, but that's there's not many experts in the country that can do a job like that. And I would assume that he'd still be available to do that, even in this new role. I mean, he's still Steve Paikin, and he's still out there doing this kind of work. I mean, he does it really, really well.
One of the best. Okay, coming up tomorrow night, Bonnie Crombie, Liberal leader of the Ontario Liberal Party. Lots of interesting things to speak about. Of course, the convention coming up September 12th through the 14th in Toronto, and lots of talk around her leadership.
For sure, and the big debate is whether she should have to get 66% support from delegates in order to stay on, or is 50.1 enough to stay on. We're definitely going to ask her that. And there's been Nate Erskine-Smith, who was on our program last week, has been very vocal of that it's time for change, that she didn't fulfill what she'd promised to do, and it's time for some renewal. And he made the argument that, look what happened with the federal party. We made a change at the right time, and look what it did. They were going to get blown out in that last federal election until they made that change. And he's arguing that that's what should happen now. It'll be interesting to hear her response. I assume she's coming on the show because her people saw him come on our show. So we'll be interested to hear what she has to say.
All right. That's Bonnie Crombie, leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, coming up tomorrow night here on Closer Look. All right. That's it for us this evening. You can reach out anytime at closerlook@villagemedia.ca. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, YouTube, and of course, across the Village Media Network. For Michael Friscolanti, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for watching. Enjoy what's left of your Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow night, Friday edition of Closer Look at 7.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.